You really have a vast experience of service both to your country and to your continent. Have you considered writing this in a book?
Yes, I'm in the process of trying to put a few ideas down.
Okay.
And if I have the resources, it would be very nice for me to really have it on paper for the benefit of those who are coming after me. As I said, it would be a question of wanting to share my experience with the younger generation so that they can use the experience that we've gone through in being able to serve and build a better Uganda than some of us have been able to go through. At the present moment, many people ask us and say, well, during your time, 30, 40 years ago, a phenomenon called corruption was not very much heard of. I think it's true, it was not very much heard of. But these days, every other day, people talk about corruption here, corruption here, corruption there. Yeah. And sometimes people come and ask us, how did you manage to keep this country together? Some of the people who have known us as servants of this country will say, for example, when you were serving in London in the late 60s, during the time of the late Prime Minister Wilson, the late Prime Minister Edward Heath, how did Uganda manage to have a favorable balance of trade between UK and Britain? Mm-hmm. We're exporting coffee, cotton, tourism, and so forth and so on. We're earning more pounds than Uganda was earning shillings.
Yeah.
How did we manage that? Of course, we had inherited a strong economy, but all that has been killed. There was a higher degree of accountability and honesty in the civil service, I dare say, than currently. At that time, maybe it's because we had a smaller public service, we had a smaller budget. But when you pick up reports written by the Public Accounts Committee, you see a lot of very unfortunate revelations about the way many ministries are operating. And some of these people, current civil servants, they come to us and say, you people who served as permanent secretaries and senior officers 30, 40 years ago, how did you manage? And this is the type of experience we'd like to be able to share with them. People like those who were permanent secretaries in the Ministry of Commerce should be able to go to these national schools of political education and give lectures on to them as to how we can bring back the glory of Uganda. How some of us should be able to inculcate into the young minds of young civil servants and young politicians how we can promote honesty and accountability, selfless service and things of the kind. I think the country needs that very, 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 very badly. And some of us, as long as we are still in this world, will only be too happy to share that golden experience with the younger generation.
You mentioned about corruption being rampant in today's society. Is it that in the past it was not reported as much as it is right now? Is it due to lack of values, or is it because of our structures? Or do you think there has been a contribution due to, the way that we have, the systems that we have within our government structures?
Partly so, yes. The reporting is much wider than it used to be in the past. Mm-hmm. There's so much freedom of capturing information. The media, I think, has all the freedom to capture more information than was the case in the past. So you can say partly we tend to think there's more corruption in the past because the publicity given is much more than in the past. But nevertheless, it's widely believed that corruption is a big cancer that is threatening to eat into the country. But there are many forces, many ways in which it can be fought. First of all, we can strengthen our legal system. The courts can be strengthened. I told you how I served in the Judicial Service Commission some time back. At that time, the Judicial Service was not as attractive as it was. But while we were there, we did a lot to try and strengthen it qualitatively as well as quantitatively. And now we have more judges, more magistrates able to handle a larger number of cases. Some effort is being made to expand the law enforcement agents, the police. We have the institution of the Ombudsman, the Inspector General of Government, and other forces which can together really fight to reduce the incidence of corruption. And I think apart from that, each one of us, the 30+ million people who feel we love our country, can contribute a little bit. Some of us who have served in the country when it was quote unquote maybe cleaner, can play a role in inculcating to the minds of the young people. I've told you about young civil servants who go for training. Some of us who have been permanent secretaries at the time when there was little or no corruption can go and really inculcate into them the spirit of accountability, honesty, and so forth and so on. So corruption can be fought from many corners, not only from government-instituted institutions like the police, the courts of law, and others, but it's a duty of each and every one of us to play his or her role in ensuring that we bring back better days. And I think we are capable of doing that.
If you had an opportunity, Ambassador, to do something differently, what would you do different as a public servant?
If I were back in the system, of course, I would endeavor to try and do better than I did in the past. I would very much fight hard to persuade the people in leadership to do better, to look at service to Uganda as a top priority, rather than look at service themselves. Look at the idea of serving the country much more important than their stomachs. I'm afraid you have a number of people here who, because of maybe what we have gone through, who look at themselves first. There is an expression in one of our native languages is that ndiamuchi, what is there for me to eat from whatever I'm required to do. Whenever you are called upon to do something, whether it's voluntary or non-voluntary, the tendency is for people to say, yes, what personal benefit do I gain from this? I remember, for example, when I tried to start a Rotary Club in Mbarara, the question that was being asked was, yes, if I join Rotary and become a Rotarian, how will it better my lot? Will I be a better businessman? Will I be richer by becoming a Rotarian or something like that? So to sum up, I think if I were given the chance to really go back into the civil service, it would be to call upon everybody to do better and restore Uganda into its past glory, so that we can live with other countries that are known to have grown in a steadfast way. We hope it's not too late. I cannot write off Uganda as having gone down the drain. We still have many people who are people of goodwill and would like us to see a better Uganda of tomorrow than the Uganda of yesterday or today.
This soil is so fertile that whatever you put in, it will grow.
It will grow.
It will grow.
So
it is only during this dry season that you feel okay. And if the government could help us and provide farmers with the irrigation systems or water everywhere, would never. I think Uganda would be a market for the whole world.
Wow.
I'm sorry, you can't see the beauty of the whole
You know,
thing.
you're not talking to a farmer, so for me it's beautiful.
What is your greatest challenge to African governments and African leaders based on the challenges that we are facing in Africa?
The greatest challenge would be service to their nation, better service to their nation. Whether you're in Uganda, the East African community, or the African government, is think of Africa first, think of East Africa first, think of Uganda first, before you think of yourself and your family. If I were to say, as Jesus said, think of the kingdom of heaven and the rest will be added to you, I would say, think of your mother country, your mother continent, and the rest will be added on to you.
Ambassador, in 2002, you presented a paper, Building Trust in Politics. Can we really build trust in politics?
Yes, we can attempt to build trust in politics. And one of the guiding factors would really be in when you look at what is politics. Politics is the management of society. When you are managing society, what do you look at? You're looking at building a nation rather than building yourself. If we can use that as the flag mast, as the beacon to guide us, rather than thinking in terms of our stomachs and ourselves, we'll be doing very well. At a national level, at a regional level, if each one of us with the 5 East African countries can build towards unifying and strengthening the East African community, we'll be heading in the right direction. Because those who have been thinking in terms of building a united continent, it's a very good idea, but it's not something that can happen overnight. Rome was not built in one day. We've got to start by strengthening ourselves at national level, regional levels, and once these regions, East African community and other regional areas, have built up strong systems, then we can think in terms of building a stronger and continental entity called the United States of Africa. It has got to be gradual. But some politicians have tended to think that, oh, we can achieve that within a matter of years and so on. So building in politics, really, trust in politics means selflessness. We've got to think in terms of what does my country want of me? What contribution can I as an individual, what contribution can we make as nationals of this country do towards building a greater nation, a greater regional cooperation, and eventually a greater continent. It may not happen during our lifetime, but a start must nevertheless be done. This is my concept of building trust in politics.
Beautiful. What is your honest assessment of Africa? What is it that we are doing right? What is it that we are doing wrong? And what would be your challenge for African leaders and African governments today?
Let me put the thing back into its historic perspective. Most of our countries had their independence about 50 years, plus or minus ago. Many of us have gone through some checkered history. Some of us have gone through different types of governments, democracies, military coups, no governments, as we have in one of our countries which has had no government for so many years. And I would like to believe that there should be a willingness to think of a better future. In the past few years, we have seen less incidents of takeover of governments with the force of arms. We have seen some semblance of returned democracy. We feel maybe this is a step in the right direction. Some countries have been blamed for returning to a multi-party system when they were not ready. Others have made an attempt. Your own country, I think, is doing reasonably well. It has not been plain sailing all the time, but you've managed to try and build from a difficult past. You have set up a new constitution, and I'm sure everybody is looking forward to a better Kenya under the new arrangements. I would like to see all the other 50 plus African countries heading towards that, heading towards building a better and viable states than has been in the past, learning from the previous good and bad experience. I think this can be done. And as I said, the more we have people who are willing to pass on the good aspects of good governance to the future generation, the better. I would not like to see too many military regimes taking over this country as what you've seen happening in the past.
Yeah.
I would like to see an attempt towards greater democracy, and I think little by little we can build on that for the prosperity of this part of Africa. We are being very much challenged by other countries that were almost the same level as with us. Many people tell us that when we had independence about 50 years ago, our economy was no different from some of these Southeast Asian countries like Singapore, Malaysia, Korea, and so forth and so on. But somehow what has happened, some of these have done much better than we have done. Are we not capable of doing better than what we've been able to do? Are we willing to see our countries going down the drain, or do we want us to see a better and better performance in the future? And this is where I would like to hope and challenge a young generation of people like you to think of building better and better and better Africa. A better Kenya, a better Uganda, a better East Africa, and a better Africa.
What can we do in Africa that is considered home to many dictators? What can we do in Africa to get rid of these dictators? And probably we would want to consider non-violent means, because we can see what has happened in the Arab Spring. There has been a lot of bloodshed and a lot of destruction of property. So what can we do to get rid of dictators in Africa?
I think it's incumbent upon us to learn from the unfortunate happenings of the past. Many of us should be able to learn from what has been called the Arab Spring. We've seen very, very unfortunate happenings happening in a number of countries that have gone through what they did. I think it's incumbent upon us to ensure that what has happened in those three countries does not happen to us. I think those of us who are concerned about peace for their children and the children's children should be able to say, yes, if mistakes have been done in Cairo, mistakes have been done in Tunisia, what can we do to avoid the very bad things that have caused the downfall of all these countries? I think we are capable of being able to say, yes, this is bad, it has led to this. This is good, it can lead to this. This is better, it can lead to this. I think we are capable of doing that. That's why again I want to emphasize upon the younger generation of viewers to really see the whole world in perspective and distinguish good from bad. I think what has happened in the Arab North has been a very, very good eye-opener for us. And none of us wants to see an African spring, an African summer, or what have you. I think none of us wants to see that.
Yeah.
Let us learn from what has happened in those three countries and see if we can avoid the bad situation and look forward towards building a better and brighter future for all of us, for the good of our younger generations.
Thank you very much, Ambassador, for sharing with us.
Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to share you my ideas.
Yes.
I hope you make maximum benefit of it.
Great. I take up the challenge.
For a greater Africa.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.